So I thought I'd get on and tell you the story of kind of what happened that day. I know a lot of people are wondering, but before I tell you, I need to let you know that I just spent the last 15 minutes talking and telling the story, and my camera wasn't recording. Oh my gosh. Anyway, for you, this is the first time you're going to hear it. For me, this is the second time I'm going to say this this morning. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that's hilarious. It's such an Aurora move. So Saturday, 3:30 in the morning, I'm asleep, and I hear my son screaming, and well, not screaming, like a yell, like not like a high pitched, like girly, like ah, just more like a ah kind of noise. I don't know why I just did that for you or why that was even important, but now you know. He was in pain. I noticed that he was doubled over on the couch, and he kept complaining, like it hurts, and I didn't know if he was having like a UTI or kidney stone. I didn't know. I'm not a doctor. So I called Michael because he works night shift. He works Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And called him, and I said, hey, and he was talking to the nurse that was there at the hospital because he works at a hospital. And, I tried not a couple things. I tried one thing. I put like a little heating pad on him and tried to see if that would help, and like on his back and stuff. But anyway, I ended up getting dressed, and I called 911, and 911 operator, I don't know if anyone's ever called 911 when you're actually in like distress, but it seems very inconvenient sometimes. What is your name? What is the address? I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't a job interview. I mean, listen, if you're a 911 operator right now and you're watching this, I love you. I'm not upset. It's just like, I just needed, yeah. And then she said, what's that noise in the back? I'm like, that's why I'm calling. So anyway, I was talking to her and the 911 operator, and she really suggested that I call the ambulance. And the reason I didn't want to was because historically, where we're located, we're like the redheaded stepchild of like the Fort Worth area. Nothing comes up here like in a decent amount of time. People in our neighborhood have died because of the slow ambulance service, just because of where their hub is located and where our neighborhood is. And anyway, it's being rectified. It's just a bad situation. It's always better if you can put someone in the car and drive 2 miles, and then we're in another city called Roanoke, and then the paramedics there can help out. So I wasn't going to do that. I was going to drive him to the hospital, the ER. It's about 8 minutes from our house. But for those who don't know, that Thursday before, so this was Saturday morning, 3:30 a.m. Thursday had snowed and then iced, or it snowed, and then Friday it turned to ice because it melted a little bit and then refroze overnight. So Friday night it refroze. We're in the Saturday morning, still kind of sort of like the Friday evening. No sun has come up yet. I didn't want to drive because that's scary. And so I looked out the window and I could see that our neighborhood streets were pretty clear. Our driveway was still a sheet of ice. So I knew we were going to be sliding down our driveway into the street, but we would catch traction once we got into our street. So, so I told my son, I said, can you walk? Can you walk? Can you get to the car? And he was like, yeah. And so we got into the car, and poor kid, I couldn't see out of my windshield because there was ice all over it. And I turn on the defroster, and I'm like, I have like a plastic folder, and I'm trying to, because we don't need ice scrapers in Texas for one day a year. Maybe we should, I don't know. And I'm trying to scrape off the ice as fast as I can, and just not doing a good job. And so I get to the point where the windshield is mostly it's mostly like taken, like the top part is mostly gone. And so I'm like driving like this, looking over the top part of the windshield. And Anyway, I drive, and the roads weren't that bad. There were some icy patches, but it wasn't that bad. And made it to the ER, and of course, we got out of the car, and we both were sliding, in the parking lot trying to get to the door, but we didn't fall. We got inside, and they immediately let him in the back, and I do all the paperwork stuff. Anyway, they start running some tests. They figure out what's going on with him. He goes into it. Oh, and the whole time this is happening, I'm talking to Michael, like I'm calling him on the phone, and we're texting and chatting, and he goes into surgery that morning. About 8:30, surgery was over, and the surgeon came out and said, yeah, everything was good. He's all intact. He's in one piece, and he'll be fine. And it'll be about an hour before they get him out, into the treatment room, the surgical treatment room. And so I was like, okay, no problem, So I called my husband at 8:30, and I was like, hey, they're all done. And by this point, he's off work, right? So he is now going to be sleeping at the hotel that their work had bought for them because of the ice, so they wouldn't have to drive home in it, because there's definitely was ice on the road. Could Michael have made it home? Sure, but we didn't know that at that point. But there's definitely ice on the road. So he was going to go to sleep, and I said, if there's any problems, I'll call and let you know. So we come home, we make it home. When all said and done, we made it home at about 10:30. So we left the house at 3:30 that morning, got home at about 10:30 that morning. And I drop him off, get him kind of settled, go out and start the whole prescription thing to get the prescription working. Of course, that's a challenge because the doctor wrote stuff wrong, and anyway, that was a feat. And so I go ahead and I grab a few things where I'm at so I can make stuff for the kids to eat. And so I go home and make something, clean up, and then for those who didn't catch this last time or don't know, I'm back in grad school finishing up working on a degree that I kind of quit working on for a while. Anyway, I'm going to finish it and get licensed. And so almost done with that, actually. And so I had some work I needed to get done for class, and so I'm trying to do my stuff. It's almost 3 o'clock at this point. I think it's 2:30 at this point, because I remember calling Michael thinking, oh, he's probably awake by now, because normally this is about the time he wakes up when he's home, and he didn't answer. So I just figured he took the opportunity to sleep in, no big deal. And so I keep doing work and stuff, and just get to the point where I'm like, I'm so tired, I just want to lay down. And so I call Michael back and no response. I think by now it's almost 4. And so it's bothering me that he's not answering, because that's not like him. And so I start doing the thing for those who have Apple's products, you may know you can go to Find iPhone, and then you can push play sound on whatever the device is, and it'll like ping and make like a ding, 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 ding noise. And so I do that to all of his devices, and he doesn't like call back. I don't get a response back. And so I'm like, okay, and I kind of lay down, and I just like, I just want like 10 minutes of sleep. And then I'm just laying there going, but what if something's wrong and here I am sleeping? These are my thoughts. And so I get up from right after laying. I was probably down for like 2 minutes, and I get back up. I tell the kids, hey, listen, I'm going to run and go try to find him. And so I call my mom, and my mom is like, where are you going? You're just going to go up there? And I said, yeah. And she goes, why don't you have the hotel, go check on him? So I call them, and they said, oh, everyone's already checked out of that room. And I said, they have? And she's like, yeah, which is odd, because I'm showing all, like when I look on Find iPhone, I show all his devices, like all of them are together. It's not like one is at work and one is at the mall, like they're all there. And so is his car. And so I'm like, that's odd, because it shows that he's there. And I said, can you do a wellness check? And so she's like, yeah. So they do that, and I'm on the phone still with my mom. And then as I'm pulling up and getting closer to Denton, to the hotel, I notice like a fire truck and an ambulance, and I'm like thinking, I get off the phone with my mom, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real. And I called them back and I said, did they find anything? And she said, they just got here, it's just the Denton Police Department. So I guess that ambulance and fire truck were for somebody else. So I get there and I see the officer, and I said to him, hey, listen, I'm his wife, the guy you're going to check on. Are you doing the wellness check? Yes, I'm his wife. And so I was waiting downstairs in the lobby. Of course, the girls that were working the front desk still wouldn't let me upstairs because I'm not on the room. And so I don't know what's going on. I mean, a good solid 10 minutes has passed at this point. And then all of a sudden I see the ambulance and the fire truck pull up without their sirens on. And I thought, okay, he's dead, because they're not in an emergency, or else they would have their lights on. So, meanwhile, I'm calm. I'm crying, but I'm calm. Like, I'm just kind of crying, and I'm just like standing there and kind of just leaning up against the table, just kind of waiting, for someone to let me upstairs or let me know what's going on. No one, the first responders didn't really know who I was. No one had told them. And so at one point I had heard one of them say, what room is it? And then the other one says 306. And as soon as I heard that, I beelined it to the elevator, and I got in the elevator and I went upstairs. And I walked into the room, and the gentleman the Denton police officer who had seen me downstairs starts to talk to me. And I don't remember what he was saying when he started talking to me. I just said, whoa, stop. Like, is he alive or is he dead? Like, which one is it? And he goes, he's alive. He might have had a stroke. And so they were putting him onto the stretcher, and they wheeled him out, and I told him I'd be at the ER in a minute. And I was going to get all his stuff and gather everything in the hotel. And they're like, we can gather it all for you, and you can pick it up tomorrow. And I was like, no. So meanwhile, the Denton police, I don't know who it was. Somebody was talking to one of the hotel staff was standing at the door and holding it open, and I guess, and just like watching everything. I guess that's just like protocol or something. But she was talking to them and kind of I guess it was the officer. He was probably trying to finish his report and get all the statements and everything. And she told him that they had come to the room at 3:00 because they needed the room. And they banged on the door really loud. And they knew someone was in here. And so that was really disturbing to hear, because I was told that everyone had checked out already. And that was like at, what was that, 4 something that I called, because I think by the time the ambulance, everybody showed up, it was like 4:45 or 4:30. So to hear them say that they try to get someone who's in there out at 3:00, they knew at 3:00 somebody was in there, and then they told me that everyone had checked out. So there was some lie discrepancy that I'll have to work through with the hotel. But anyway, I get all this stuff, and I kind of take note of what I'm looking at in the hotel. Like, I noticed that Michael has laid out his clothes, like, for work the next day. Like his pants and his shirt and everything are all laid out. His shoes are there. His backpack is hanging on like the chair. I guess he had gone to Walmart and he had some snacks, and so those were sitting, there as well. His jacket, his jacket was downstairs. There was another coat over there, but yeah. And the bed was how when you're in a bed, it kind of gets jostled, as you're sleeping. Well, this bed the other side was completely like smoothed out. And this side looked like he was in it, and then just kind of flipped the covers over like that, and then and then got out and walked away. And so I was just, it didn't look very slept in, is what I'm trying to say. Like, in other words, he probably wasn't in it for very long. And I say all that, and then the floor was a little bit wet. There was a wet, like, a washcloth. But I say all that because, like, we don't have a timeline. We don't know when this happened, and that could be helpful. Not anymore, but at the beginning it could have been helpful to try to figure out, how long he was down, because those of you who know how strokes work, like time is of the essence in order to maintain certain mobilities and cerebral functions and things like that. So anyway, so those are just some observations I had made. So I gathered all his things, and I'm not taking my time, but I'm not like rushing, because I know that they have things they have to do when they get him to the ER, and I'm not going to see him immediately. So I'm kind of gathering everything, and again, surveying and taking note of all the stuff. And then I get downstairs and the ambulance is still there. And I'm like, why are they still here? And they say to me, ma'am, are you his wife? And I go, yes. And they go, he is refusing services. And I was like, what? And so I jump in the ambo, and I was like, are you on the outside of your mind? And ironically, the medical hospital was literally across the street from where we were. And I was like, you are going to the hospital. And so he jumps. So, I said, tell them you're going to the hospital. And he said, I'm going to the hospital. So, okay. So I went to the hospital. I get there, I go to the ER. At this point, the only people that really know what's happening, I don't even know if my mom knew at this point. But I had called my grandmother, Sheena, and told her. And I think there was a couple of friends at church I was messaging with. I talked to whenever we were in the lobby. But anyway, it's those were some of the people that knew at this point. That was it. And so I got to the ER, and I went into the room, and he wasn't even there yet. Like, they hadn't, or was he there? I don't think he was there. No, he wasn't there. Oh my gosh. No, he wasn't there yet. I was waiting for him to come. So I used that time then to start texting, people, and let them know what was going on. And that's when my voice started to go, because I started to talk and text. Anyway, they brought Michael in, and for those who don't know, Michael is a really clean, like, hygienic guy. Like, his beard is always like manicured. He's washes his hands like constantly. He just always looks put together. And they pulled him in. He looked a mess. Like, he just looked terrible, and that bothered me so much. And so I was, trying to put him back together, and I noticed that the entire left side of his body was paralyzed, and we were trying to talk to him, and it was really hard to understand him. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't understand you. And he would repeat himself, and he had like so many, like, his patience level was so high. Like, he was just letting us say, what? And so meanwhile, I called my daughter, who was at home, and I said, I need you to bring me some clothes. I don't know if I'm going to be staying up here. I don't know. I didn't know what the rules were up there, but I just wanted my bag and everything. And so I could have, my wallet and stuff that I needed. So she brought everything up to me. And so she got to see him, in the ER, and I kind of warned her, like, you may not want to. He looks kind of rough and stuff. And so she saw him, and he was still alive at this point. And, everyone's watching him. There's people all over the place, and ER is absolutely chaotic. I mean, it's like controlled chaos. I don't know if there's any nurses or doctors watching right now, but it's like, it's chaotic, but everything is running like a machine. It's like being in a machine shop. Like, everything is working just fine. Yeah. So eventually they get him stable enough to move up to the ICU, and they move him up there. And by then it's like 10:30 at night or so, or 10 or 10:30. And I get up there, and what a night and day difference. I mean, it was so calm up there. Like, it was so quiet. And Michael's kind of falling in and out of sleep because of the hematoma on his head. So I haven't really gotten a chance to really talk to him. And we had talk about like drama and chaos. Whenever you get like a new credit card, or you have a credit card, and then your the expiration date on it changes, so they send you a new one. And so we got a new card, and we needed and the new card went into effect on the 1st of February. And so Michael's in the process of like calling, utility companies to make sure that when they charge the card that it would work. And so I was like, have you done any of that yet? I'm asking them this in the ER, like, are we going to have our water and electricity tomorrow? And he was like, I've done some of it, but not all of it. And so I'm like, are all the passwords, everything still the same? And, just like, because sometimes you have to change them because security and whatever. And he was like, yeah, everything's still the same. And so I said, well, just in case, like, give me this and this. And of course, I had a cell phone and everything, which has everything I need in it. But, so that was kind of like, oh gosh, I have to do this like tonight. Just what I want to do when I go home. So anyway, that wouldn't have been a problem if everything would have been fine at that point. If only he had, if only the expiration date didn't need to be changed yet. So anyway, it was just timing. So he's up in the ER or the ICU now, and it's getting close to 11. And I finally get a chance just to talk to him. Like, I asked him, like, do you know what happened? And he said, yeah. He seemed really with it, but I didn't trust it. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And so, anyway, so I just, the rules at the ICU were you could stay as long as you want. You just couldn't sleep there. And as y'all probably know, at this point, I was truly exhausted. It was like about midnight, I think, when I finally left. And I drove home. Got home and, of course, started doing the utility thing to try to get that squared away. And then I think I fell asleep. Like, after I got everything done, and then I had, I have animals, so I had to deal with all that. But once I got everything situated for myself and for the house and for the kids and everything, I finally went to bed like at 1 or 2. And then that began the next few days of his rapid kind of recovery, as most of you probably have already seen on the videos, I think like 1 through 14. But that is kind of what happened. So people ask me questions like, well, what happened to him? Why did they have that? Like, what kind of stroke was it? I don't know. I don't know if we'll find out at some point, but I don't know. People ask me, well, what do you think his progress will be? To which I'm like, it doesn't matter what I think, because my thoughts don't determine the outcome of his progress. My thoughts are a moot point. My thoughts are irrelevant. I don't know. I mean, it's the step one was to get him stabilized. And also, for those who don't know me, I'm a little bit of I'm super logic-minded. I thrive in logic. And I don't really function in what-ifs that often. Like, well, this could, or I shouldn't say that. I do function in what-ifs. I don't speculate, because I know the consequences of that. Like, I know that it's just too hard to say for certain things. So step one was stabilization. Check. Step 2 is rehabilitation, and that started yesterday. I don't know what that progress is. They just got a baseline yesterday on that. I don't know. It's all dependent on Michael. Like, will he work hard? Will he not? Will he want more? Will he want less? Like, you're asking me what I think is as asking me to give you my thoughts, and my thoughts, they mean nothing. Like, because I'm not Michael, I'm not doing the work. And so yeah. So the other question I get is, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine, but I'm not fine. Like, it's scary. It's frustrating. Those of you know that Michael didn't really qualify for FMLA because I went back to school and everything. I really wasn't working full time, so I could focus on that and doing all of my field work and practicum hours and my rotations. And so yeah, that's kind of a scary boat to be in. I'm trying not to exchange him coming home for a financial crisis. So just trying to to work that as best as I can. And he does have PTO and some other things like that. We do have some savings, but again, I'm trying not to deplete our life and do craziness like sell the house in order to stay out of debt. We don't have debt currently, or we have a mortgage, but we don't have any other debt like car loans or credit cards or student loans or things like that. We just have regular like utility stuff and car insurance, that kind of thing, kind of boring. So yeah, so I'm trying to fiddle through that. Sweet friends of ours have, like Shara started a really generous GoFundMe to help with the fake out-of-pocket expenses. Did you know that whenever it says you pay a certain amount out of pocket, it's a lie? It's actually more than that. Those of you who've been through surgeries and other emergency events probably know this already. So we're trying to, I'm trying to navigate that. And yeah, so how am I? I mean, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm not, I'm not having panic attacks or anxiety or depression or things like that. I'm a realist. Like, I kind of know what needs to be done to fix the problem. We'll get it. We'll get it. We have a really great support system of friends and our church, our family, some strangers I've never met before. So that's been fun. Anyway, but that's the story. This is the long episode that is. I don't ever plan to make another video this long again, but hopefully that will satisfy kind of what happened that day. So what's the status of today? I don't know. I won't see Michael. I'm going to go back to work full time for about a month or so. Because when he gets out, he'll need someone here with him at the house. And so starting tomorrow, I work at Cook Children's Hospital. And that's where I'll go back to. And yeah. We'll see how it goes from there. I won't see him. I probably will only see him on the weekends. So updates will be kind of few and far unless I think of something interesting or I hear something great that I'll jump on. I prefer that y'all see him and his progress and not me talking because that's no fun. It's more fun to watch him and his progression. But anyway, so that's it. He worked with a speech and language pathologist yesterday, and they did, this whole time I've been saying that cognitively, he just seems really there. And he did, the speech and language pathologist did evaluations on him, and he scored perfect. There was one area that it was sequencing. I think it was sequencing that was kind of off a little bit, but my thought was maybe the question was just not a very good question. So I suggested a couple others, so hopefully he'll do those, and then he'll get a passing grade on his cognitive abilities. But so far he's at like 99%. So that's kind of what we were thinking the whole time. He's always seemed like he was here. Like the brain part is not the hard part for him. It's the left arm that's kind of the challenge, like learning to reuse that. So that's kind of where his issues are at the moment. But anyway, please keep praying for him. He was in the ER on Saturday and he was ready to go to rehab on 3 days later. The reason he didn't go on the 4th day was because insurance hadn't cleared it yet. And then the 5th day, the doctor held him just because she wanted to tweak a medication just to make sure it was okay, and held him overnight. And then finally he went on the 6th day. So he's made a pretty remarkable recovery so far, and those who want to know, the reason that he's so far away is because that's where our insurance is. So he's about an hour and a half from my house, and it's a little tough to make that drive every day, but certainly can make it frequently. So anyway, that's it. I hope it answered all your questions. Now I won't have to say it anymore. My voice can heal. But if you do have more questions for anything, I don't mind answering, because I've been on both sides of this now, right? And I know what it's like to want to know information, especially if you're close to Michael and you want to know a detail that I forgot. I realize I forget things. I also realize I'm not very curious of a person because I don't ask a lot of questions. I've known this about myself for a long time. So, yeah. So I probably didn't ask a fourth of the questions that you all have questions about. I didn't even bother to think about those. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye, everyone.